It's time to enter the grid after 28 years. Tron's back. Hi everyone, I'm Ben Maiden and welcome to Entertainment Zone. I am here today for my review of Tron Legacy, which was of course in 3D, just like, well, pretty much everything lately. Just to let you know now, this review will contain spoilers later on in the video, but I'll alert you when they are coming up. So let's get things kicked off and start the review of Tron Legacy. Perhaps I should start by saying that I loved the old Tron. I've got it on DVD. You know, when it came out with the anniversary DVD, I got that, and you know, I remember seeing it even before then when I was younger, and I just always loved Tron. You know, it wasn't a film that I'd rewatch over and over and over again, but it was a film that I've always enjoyed. And you know, when they announced it 2 years ago that they were making a sequel, I was just like, oh my god, I couldn't believe it. I really could not believe it. Back then it was called Tron 2, spelt TR2N, thank god for the name change. And you know, they had the test footage with Jeff Bridges. I just thought, oh my god, this is amazing. And you know, obviously then we had trailers coming out last year, and then you know, the film this year, and oh god, it's just, oh, personally I really liked the movie. A lot of people say, no, basically if you've seen Tron, you've seen Tron Legacy already. To a degree that is true, but at the same time it isn't. The visual effects are far superior in Tron Legacy. I'm not bitching about the effects in Tron though, because at the time they were groundbreaking too. And so don't take that as a knock towards Tron at all. I love the old Tron, but of course things have had a bit of an upgrade since the original Tron. And it's important to stress as well, if you don't know this is a sequel. It's not a remake of Tron, it is a sequel. Now, as I said earlier, it was in 3D. Obviously that isn't going to work because this video isn't in 3D. Anyway, it was in 3D. And I know fans have been quite split on the 3D. Now, this movie is being compared a lot to Avatar in terms of 3D, because it used the next camera up from Avatar. It's the Fusion 3D camera, but it's the newer model than the Avatar one. Now, personally, I'm going to go out and say I preferred the 3D in Avatar. I really did. Don't get me wrong, the 3D is pretty good in Tron, but the thing is, you know, everything in the real world's filmed in 2D, as the film makes very clear at the beginning. Some of the film's in 2D, some's in 3D. Everything in the real world was in 2D, but as we entered the grid, it's 3D. But you see, 3D works with light as well, and because the grid is very dark, you know, there's no sun, it's all dark, and with the neon lights, it's hard to get the depth in 3D, because you know, Avatars, that's why I personally think Avatar's 3D looks better, because it's so rich and colourful. The 3D stands out more, you know, it's more noticeable. But there are scenes in Tron where the 3D is truly amazing, and you'll notice the 3D more in the brighter scenes, such as in Castor's club, the end of line club. Great reference to MCP back in the original Tron, and as well in Flynn's home, Kevin and Cora's home, because it's brighter. You'll notice the 3D more so than you will in other areas of the grid. So the 3D was good, but it wasn't the greatest. I've heard some people saying it was a little bit blurry. I went to see this with my uncle and my little cousin, and my little cousin said he found it a little blurry, but me and my uncle found it okay. Um, but as I said, it wasn't as standout. This calling it the 3D movie event of the year. The 3D wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. I still think the best use of 3D this year has been Jackass 3D. I just chose not to do a review of that movie, if you can call it that. Don't get me wrong, I did like Jackass 3D, but I'm not here to talk about that now. So yes, average 3D, I'll say. Better than Saw 3D's 3D anyway. Let's move on to the acting. First we've got Jeff Bridges as Kevin Flynn. Oh, amazing. He is a legend. He was my favourite character actor in this movie. Kevin Flynn was my favourite character. You know, everyone thought, oh, Garrett Hedlund was going to, as Sam Flynn was going to be the lead. No, I'd say Jeff Bridges was still the lead in this movie. He was great as Kevin, and he was good as Clue as well. He was de-aged for Clue and some of his flashbacks. I'll go on to that in a minute. Bruce Boxall-Knight, sorry, I can't say his name properly, was there as Alan Bradley. Great to see him back, and as one flashback with Tron. Let me see. We also had Olivia Wilde as Cora. Wow, she was great. She was great. We had, as I said, Garrett Hedlund as Sam. You know, I think he did a pretty good job, and it really did feel like him and Jeff Bridges had a really believable father-son relationship. So I enjoyed that. Michael Sheen as Castor. Oh, he was cool. He was really great. And Daft Punk cameoed as themselves. They were great. And I should mention Daft Punk now. The score was phenomenal. It's a great soundtrack. Get the soundtrack, honest to God, it's amazing. Thanks to them, I've discovered Daft Punk. I mean, I knew a few of the songs, but I'm really getting to know more now, and Daft Punk were great. And so was their cameo. Now, I mentioned Jeff Bridges was de-aged to play Clue. Personally, I thought they did a really good job with this. There were some shots, mainly when he was talking or in a close-up, where it did look a bit CGI'd, but sometimes it just looked... That's like, wow, my God, you know, Kevin, Jeff of yesteryear is back. You know, I think they did a marvelous job. I also want to quickly mention other visual effects as well. It was great seeing the light cycles back, bit of an upgrade in this film. And then, you know, we had like Cora's land vehicle too, that was great. We had the recognizer back, and you know, just the landscape is marvellous. I'd love to live in the grid. I think it just looks so awesome. So they did a spectacular job with the special effects in this movie. I'm going to review the story now, the plot. If you don't want to know anything, stop watching now. Okay, so the story picks up a few years after the original Tron. Kevin is reading Sam a bedtime story, and then it's off to work for him, only for him to never return again. What Sam doesn't know is that he's been sucked back into the grid, and you know, as we learn later on in the movie, the reason he never come home is because, you know, the grid's changed. The game has changed from what we saw in the original Tron, and Clue has become a dictator. He's very evil, and he's trying to rid the grid of imperfection, which include the ISOs, which is Cora's race, people, you know, programs that have manifested to life by themselves. They were not created by the creator, Kevin, or other users. But eventually Sam grows up, and you know, he doesn't want to be the head of NCOM, and so the board of directors now run it, and Alan Bradley, who was the user of the programme Tron in the original. Alan Bradley, he's on the board. He was left in charge by Kevin, but he's got barely any power now. And oh, and be sure in the board of the directors scene, be sure to notice the cameo by Cillian Murphy, Scarecrow from Batman Begins. He plays Dillinger's son, a nice throwback to the other Tron movie, the original. And as well, notice the line when Sam is at Incoming as well. That's a big door. Throwback again to the original Tron. But anyway, later Alan Bradley meets Sam saying, look, I've had a page from your father's office. It's been disconnected for 20 years, which leads to Sam going to the arcade and discovering Tron and, you know, the machine. And he ends up getting sucked into the grid where he's very quickly captured, and you know, he's forced into the game's grid to battle different opponents, including a masked agent of Clue, a program called Rinsler. And so Sam is forced into the game's light cycle, battling with the discs, until he is saved by Cora and reunited with his father. And as I've said, the scenes between Sam and Kevin were really well done. They did feel like a genuine father and son act, you know. And Sam's relationship with Cora is interesting in the movie. There's romantic undertones, but they never come out and admit feelings together. I mean, the ending of the movie, you know, sets up the beginning of their relationship, but it's so subtly done, but in a nice way. You know, Sam and Kevin's relationship is the forefront before Sam and Cora's, which I thought was really cool. So in the end they decide, Sam's like, look Dad, I'm taking you back, and he gives in and they go back, and so they have to get back to the portal without Clue finding them, and they go and meet characters along the way such as Castor, Michael Sheen, who turns out to be Zeus, a character called Zeus, and you know, other fights ensue, and all sorts of craziness happens. There's some great action scenes, some great fight scenes. The light cycle stuff is great. And later on, we find out that Rinsler is actually Tron. Kevin had thought Tron perished at the hands of Clue many years ago, but no, Tron has been reprogrammed to become Rinsler. But in the final fight at the end, Rinsler remembers he is Tron and turns on Clue. I was very disappointed. We only had one flashback of Tron, and the rest of the time when we have Rinsler, we don't see Tron's face, not even at the end. So I was very disappointed in that, though I guess all the money went into de-aging Jeff Bridges in this movie. But you know, at least we had Tron in it. But again, he wasn't really the main character to say it's Tron Legacy. It's a great storyline, and it'll keep you entertained throughout. What I was a bit shocked at, though, was the ending. In the end, Kevin decides to merge with Clue and destroy the grid rather than going back to reality with Sam, which really shocked me. I was like, whoa. I was like, what? Right, okay. I was like, I understand why he did it. He knew the only way to stop Clue was to merge with him and destroy the grid. Though not everything's destroyed, you know, all the wastelands are still there, but, you know, Tron is seemingly destroyed as well, but we don't know that for certain. If they ever do a sequel, I guess they could say, no, Tron survived in the wasteland, he's fine. You know, the waters healed him in the wasteland. So it was a shock to see them kill off Jeff Bridges' character, Kevin. But he tells Cora to go in the real world. He'd always dreamt of taking a program into the real world because he reckons it could help the human race, which I can understand where he's coming from. So he sends Cora with him, and when she leaves, she actually has Kevin's identity disc with him. So I guess that's a possibility if they ever want to bring Jeff Bridges back for a sequel. That's one way to do it. Though the way the ending happened, it really made me think there isn't going to be a sequel. And as much as I love Tron and I'd love to see more, I think they ended it in a way where I can safely say they ended it perfectly for me, and hopefully they won't need to make a sequel. So on the whole, it was pretty good, really. I really enjoyed Tron. It kept it, for I think it was 2 hours 25 minutes. Is it? It didn't feel like that at all. It flew. It really flew by. It keeps you going. There's twists and turns, and there's great fight scenes, and there's great character interactions. Jeff Bridges has some great lines like "You're affecting my Zen thing, man," and the acting was superb. The 3D, as I said, was a mixed bag. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. As I said, my only gripes are that we didn't see enough of Tron himself. Though, if they do a sequel, now that if the Jeff Bridges is gone, they can de-age Bruce Boxer instead. And sometimes young Jeff Bridges seemed a bit CGI. So it is one to see, one to check out. Great visual effects, average 3D, superb acting, great storyline, and the kids will love it. My generation will love it, and the adults will love it too. It's a great nostalgia trip, and I would give it 8 out of 10. I'd say 8 out of 10. Leave a comment to let me know what you think of the movie if you've seen it. What did you think of the 3D? What did you think of the story? What did you think of CGI Jeff Bridges? Let me know in the comments, and to make sure you never miss a video, be sure to subscribe. And until next time, it's bye bye from me.